Hello and welcome back to the EDC Squirrel. Got a new one today, and this is from Kubey. Now, I got this from Going Gear on Whatnot during one of their shows, and managed to get this one at a relative steal. I saw it when he was doing the show, and I was just really intrigued by the shape, and finally came in. I can't wait to show you guys. So let's get started. Now, this is what they call this. This is the Boxer liner lock flipper folding knife, and this one is done. I think they call this a Tiffany blue. There we go. Get this open, and I thought I saw some paperwork in the box. Yeah, we got Kubey in there, and then a congrats, and serves as a certificate of authenticity for the knife. Let's get the rest of this back in there, and let's take a look at the knife itself. Okay, now before we go any further, let's take care of some of the specifics on this one. This one is called the Boxer, is the item name, and model number on this, if you're looking for it, is KU407B. Now, overall length on this one when it's open is 6.22 inches. It has a blade length of 2.48 inches and a handle length of 3.74 inches. Now, the material on the blade itself is going to be 14C28N, and according to their website, it has a hardness rating of around 60 to 62 HRC. The blade type on this is going to be a sheep's foot done in a satin finish with a flat grind, and the handle material is G10. It is also a liner lock, and as you can see probably already, let's focus up on here, we've got a reversible pocket clip, which is done in stainless steel. Now, it does have ceramic ball bearings for the pivot, and this one weighs also at 3.67 ounces. Now, the first thing you'll probably notice as I'm holding this blade is it's very, very rectangular. Even with what you can see here is the rear flipper tab. So very boxy lines. You can see why they call this the Boxer. But in that case, nothing really, I mean, it looks like the rear flipper protrudes a little bit, but really, it really does stay in line with the lines of this knife. Excuse me. Giving this a really interesting look. Now, again, I said before, the pocket clip is reversible and it is inset. We do have a lanyard hole as well if you want to put a lanyard to this. As far as opening the blade, we do have what looks to be a thumb disc. We have a front flipper as well as the rear flipper. And the liner lock on this one appears to be a nested liner lock. Now, opening this up, because of the shape of the disc is actually squarish in shape. I was able to spidey flick that with relative ease. Really easy to use. Rear flipper works perfectly fine, even though the rear flipper looks really small. Still very easy to use. How's the front flipper on this one? Front flipping tends to be my favorite way to deploy a blade. And that was nice and easy to use. Didn't really have to think about it too much. Maybe not as easy as some others that I've had, but still pretty easy. Doesn't take a lot of forethought and just kind of roll the blade over. So maybe not as snappy as some of the others, but still very easy to use. Especially for me, front flippers tend to be my favorite, to be quite honest. That and thumb holes, because I like rear flipping blades or spidey flicking blades. But that makes this a very fidgety knife. You have all those methods of deployment: the rear flipper, the front flipper, the thumb. I'm going to call that a square since it's not really a disc. I do like how, now I don't have too many of these types of, and they're not really thumb studs, but the discs, or this, in this case, a square. So I don't have too many knives that have this. So I don't really have too much to compare it to. Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of those, but because it makes it really easy to reverse, well, now that I'm messing it up, but because it makes it really easy to reverse flick, I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. Really snappy, really smooth movement on the blade. Yeah, the disc or the square takes a little bit getting used to, but once you've got it, you've got it. Still very easy to use. I don't know how I feel about it still. Now on this particular knife, I feel like I'm perfectly fine with that disc. I know on others that I've played around with, I'm not the most fond of this style of opening method, but I'm actually liking it on this knife. Now, again, it's a nested liner lock, as you can see there, and there's a generous enough cutout on the scale that allows me to go ahead and just use the pad of my thumb. I don't have to dig my nail in there to use that liner lock. I can just push it away or push it off to the side with the pad of my thumb without any issue. Now closed, it's a little harder to tell, but that looks pretty well centered in that well. So very nicely done in terms of fit for that blade. Now, it does have a really nice sheep's foot blade. This is, I've said it before, my favorite profile when it comes to EDC carry because I love the utilitarian aspect of this sheep's foot. You get a nice gentle curve here. It still comes to a point for some piercing. And so for when it comes to package opening, cutting, slicing, very slicey blade. Nice, and I don't know how else to describe it, but nice, thick, kind of meaty blade shape. On this, you have a very generous finger choil here in combination with a cutout on the scale, allowing me to choke up really nicely on this knife. Now, even with my hand off that finger choil, I can still get a gorilla grip on this knife. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but it's nice to know I can get all four fingers on there. And utilizing that finger choil, I can get some really precise control. It feels really good in the hand, despite the kind of blocky look that it has. We have quite a bit of jimping all along the spine of this blade. And it's pretty aggressive without being overly irritating to the thumb. And in that case, actually, now that I notice it, that little plate, disc, or square, whatever you want to call it, gives me a little bit more area to really get a grip on this blade. Like almost like a little shelf there, aside from just the jimping. And it feels like, I mean, it's definitely aggressive jimping without it being overly irritating. So yeah, I can get some really precise control over that edge, even the point. Very surprisingly ergonomic. They've nicely rounded down the edges to the G10 scales. There is some like milling on this, giving it a nice amount of grip. It feels surprisingly good in the hand. And it's funny because it's such a rectangular grip on this, or rectangular shape. Even, yeah, different holds are easy to do. It's a relatively neutral shape, so holding the knife in different grips is easy to do without feeling awkward. This is generally how I'll usually hold the knife when I'm using it for different cutting tasks. It feels really good in the hand. Now, the lockup on that blade, as it's open, very positive lockup. I wasn't feeling any movement. Yep. No movement on the blade left or right, side to side, up or down. Very nice lockup. It sounds really good when it clicks in there. I like the sound of that liner lock as it snaps in. So nice positive lockup on the blade. Very smooth action. Did it say it had ball bearings? I'm pretty sure it said it had, yeah, cage ceramic ball bearings, which is why that moves so nice and smooth and really, really quick, especially with the thumb disc. I'm really enjoying how easy it is to spider flick this one. Okay, let's see how they finished the edge on this one. Magazine paper. Let's see how this does. Now, I haven't done anything with this blade yet, obviously right out of the box. Ooh, very smooth cut. Very, very smooth feeling cut from the blade. I like the sound of that as it's going through the paper. Very, very crisp edges on that magazine paper as it went through. Really good finishing job. I'm not seeing much debris at all on the edge of the blade after it went through that paper. So, in other words, it's not really tearing through any of that paper at all, not anywhere along that edge. It is cleanly cutting through with ease. It sounded really good. It felt really good. Kind of like the sharper a blade is when cutting through. I know it's like magazine paper might seem like nothing, but the sharper a blade is as it cuts through that magazine paper, you can feel it in both your hands, the one holding the knife as well as the one holding the paper. And this floated through that paper almost like there was nothing there. The only thing I could hear was just it slicing through. Nice sound as it went through. I'm very impressed with the factory edge on this one. Very nicely done. And I just noticed that the jimping on the liner lock, like as I'm holding it, really helps with that grip. The pocket clip doesn't really feel like it's getting in the way, especially with the way that I like to hold a knife. Even with a Gorilla Grip, the Gorilla Grip, I can definitely feel it behind the knuckle, but doesn't feel like it's going to be irritating in any way. But the way I normally hold a knife, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And again, I love this blade profile. It's just such a nice blade profile for everyday use. I'm glad they went with that style blade for this knife. And it's the perfect size knife for me being in a state where blade length is restricted. Really interesting shape on the handle. I love how when it's folded in, it just makes like a near perfect rectangle. And it looks like, yeah, that's a pretty deep carry pocket clip. So that looks like it's going to disappear pretty well in a pocket without any issue. I don't know how this is going to be in terms of snagging anything if you're retrieving it from your pocket, because again, it's a very squared off plate for the, I keep saying disc, but I guess you could call it a plate. It's very squared off. It's not like super aggressive, but it's got jimping all around. So I wonder how that's going to be in a pocket. Actually, we can figure that out right now. Let me grab my demonstration shorts, or whatever you want to call these. Cut up pair of jeans I use specifically for this purpose. Put that in there. Now, this is how I normally carry my pocket knives, is they'll be sitting back with the blade towards the seam of the pocket. So still a generous amount of pocket for other stuff. Pulling it out of the pocket, I think that was just the snap of the pocket clip. I was just wondering how it might feel. Now I'm pressing down, so like as if the cloth had a little bit of tension around it as I'm pulling the knife out. I was wondering, I don't feel like it's snagging anywhere in there. I thought it might snag a little bit on the squarish plate, but it doesn't feel like it. How is this going to be in the fifth pocket? Oh, almost fits perfectly in my fifth pocket, the watch pocket. It doesn't go all the way in. You can see it's still poking out. So it's just a hair too long to fit in the fifth pocket. Although if you don't mind it poking out like that, that could still be a good option in terms of carrying. Otherwise, this appears pretty well in there. Not too bad. So really interesting shape on this one. And I like the various methods of deployment. Very positive sounding on the open. Whoops. On the open when it locks in place. Very loud now that I think about it. And all the opening methods are very easy to use, very comfortable to use, and a surprisingly ergonomic handle. Like I wasn't sure about it. I just thought it looked neat. The fact that it was like almost a perfect rectangle, but I even had to admit that I wasn't sure how it was going to feel in the hand once it's deployed. But it feels really surprisingly good in the hand, and being able to maintain and precisely control that blade by choking up on there is really, really nice. But great size blade. Love the shape, both closed and open. Let me know what you guys think. I know, oops, kick my camera. I know they have obviously different colorways available on this one. Looking at Kubey's website alone, they do have this in a black G10. This one I understand it just says blue, but I think they call it Tiffany blue. Do they just say blue? They also have a, I believe it's an Ultim that's partially see-through. Yeah, an Ultim. They have a red with a black wash blade, and as well as a white with a black wash blade. And all the prices on these are going to be pretty consistent on Kubey's website, with the exception to the Ultim. They were all showing to run about $70 on their website, with the Ultim running about $80. I don't know how prices are going to be on other websites, but so you're looking around $70 to $80, at least on Kubey's website at the time that this video was created. Prices may vary if you look at other retailers. I know I got mine from Going Gear on Whatnot. I know I didn't pay $70. I might have admittedly gotten on the low end and probably very lucky to get on the very low end of the cost of this knife. But even at its regular price, I'm thinking that this is very well worth it. I like the steel. The 14C28N is one of my favorite steels for knives of this price point, under $100. And I love the profile. I love the ergonomics. I love the styling of this blade, even when closed. And I love the ease of use. Very, again, smooth and quick deployment. Those ceramic ball bearings really doing a great job of making that a very smooth feeling knife. I really don't have much in the way of downsides on this one. They even managed to make it reversible with a lanyard hole. This is a great little knife from Kubey. Let me know what you guys think below. Do you have one of these? How do you feel about it? And or do you plan on getting one? Let me know below, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all the support. If you liked what you saw, please drop a like down below. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified as soon as I drop down a new video. But thanks again for being here, and hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.